Root-Pike WIN is your local nonprofit that focuses on restoring, protecting, and sustaining the watersheds of southeast Wisconsin's Root-Pike Basin. You may be asking, what's a watershed? It's a geographical area of the land where all of the water that flows onto it and flows under it exits out into the same area. I recently met up with Christy and Laura of Root-Pike WIN and Brian Cater from the city of Kenosha to learn more about their organization and the projects they have going on at the Pike Creek watershed here in downtown Kenosha. To start the day, I'm on my way to meet with Christy. She's going to teach us some of the history of the Pike Creek watershed and the importance of Root-Pike WIN's project.
Behind us is the Pike River, and according to a lot of historians, this general area is the birthplace of Kenosha. So as people traveled here, they found that this area was really convenient for a harbor, and it was once abundant with fish populations, which kept people settling here. Kenosha translates to the place of pike, or for the northern pike, which unfortunately this fish is no longer abundant in this area as it once was. Some of that has to do with some stormwater runoff issues, habitat degradation, but the good news is that this whole area is slotted for some great restoration in the future, and that will help alleviate that problem, hopefully. So this is one of many storm drains that ultimately discharges into the Pike River system. It's important to remember that what happens to the land happens to the water. So specifically in this area, any trash, cigarette butts, car oil, anything that is hitting these impervious surfaces, when it rains, it's all going to wash down this storm drain or another drain and ultimately end up down there. That also applies to the larger watershed in general. So grass clippings, any fertilizer or chemicals people are putting on their lawns, the rain also washes that more across the land, picking up those additional pollutants and entering into the Pike River system.
Remember, what happens to the land happens to the water. We have to be careful to not have pollutants running into our storm drains.
So right down here is where that drain ultimately discharges. So like I said, anything that's on the road or throughout the watershed makes its way right down here into the Pike River system, like trash. Besides stormwater runoff and the pollutants that are in the runoff, there are also some other issues that you can see with the vegetation. So a lot of these are actually invasive species, and people don't realize that because some, like Queen Anne's lace right here, is so abundant throughout the area that people think this is a native plant that should be here. But it should not be. It can really take over. This is Canada thistle that right now is about to put its seed all over here and multiply. We have burdock and some chicory root over there, just to name a few, but there are many. And that is part of the restoration that we are trying to do, is to improve this to native vegetation. So that way any stormwater runoff that flows across the land is captured more in this vegetation. And also trash that flows off the land can get trapped here a little bit too. And that will also help prevent some of the erosion that you can see starting down here. So your stream bank should not look like this. There should be a better connection between the river and the land, because as the river rises, some of that water is then absorbed in over here in the native vegetation. But without the native vegetation, that storm water comes rushing in here, and that's what leads this area to erode. In your yard specifically, if you can reduce the amount of stormwater runoff that leaves your yard, that would be the best thing you can do. So if you have a little rain garden or planting your own native vegetation, you'll promote more infiltration of stormwater. Less is going to move across the land and ultimately discharge out here. You can also pick up your pet waste, pick up your trash, and not just in your yard, but also in the greater community as well. And also, don't throw your cigarette butts out the window.
I never knew native plants did so much for water quality, and it's so easy to properly throw our trash away. We all have to do our part. Next, I'm headed over to Laura to learn about the Pike Creek Rearing Pond. Hey, so where are we? What is this?
This is the Kenosha Rearing Pond. So this was built in 1973, and it's run by the Kenosha Sport Fishing and Conservation Association. They run it entirely on volunteers and donations, and they work to put more fish in for conservation as well as for recreation into our rivers and lakes and streams. And it's really neat how it works. They have a big tube that takes in water from a deep underground aquifer that's the perfect cold temperature that they need. They have another pipe that brings in water from the Pike River that imprints the fish so that they see the Pike River as home and hopefully want to spawn there in the future. They have some aerator stones and a pump to regulate oxygen, and they'll have a net over that entire structure during rearing season to protect from predation from hungry birds and to protect the UV from changing the water temperature. But this is really exciting because this is going to be a part of the restoration, so it's going to have a more substantial structure, a more substantial rooftop, and it's going to be really exciting.
And you said they bring fish here, they basically get them prepared to go into the pond. Mm-hmm. How do they get them from in here way out there?
That's a good question. You want to go check it out? So the fish actually come out. They drain through a drain in the rearing pond and come out this little pipe out here. Wow. To this, it's like making their way into the Pike River, or if the mouth's open, they can go out to Lake Michigan right away. But you can kind of tell over here that there's some things going on that maybe make their life a little bit harder. We've got a storm drain over on the other side of us, and so that's going to bring in a lot of different things from up above. And a lot of things feed algae, and algae is a problem because contrary to popular belief, it is not an oxygen giver, it is an oxygen sucker. So it will create some oxygen as it's devouring all of these nutrients that are coming in from the storm sewers, but then it depletes all the oxygen when it dies very quickly, creating dead zones. So no fish, macro and micro invertebrates have issues. It's kind of the basis of the food chain, so it's a big deal. And there's a few things that feed this algae that we as a community can be aware of. How our actions on our own properties are affecting different water bodies. So algae is fed by things like phosphorus and nitrogen, so grass clippings, leaves, fertilizers, and pet waste is actually a huge one. It's actually one of the most significant sources by the EPA for non-point pollution is pet waste. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And contrary to popular belief as well, it does not biodegrade into fertilizer. It's going to biodegrade into phosphorus and nitrogen, which will fertilize the algae, but then it's also parasites, roundworm, E. coli, just things we don't want in our water for recreation. The fish are in that water, people are fishing, we're swimming, other animals drink this water and use this water. And it's dangerous for people in the yards as well. The parasites can live for years in the soil. So gardeners, kids running around, pets in the backyard. So picking up pet waste is a really easy way to fix that. And if you think about all the dogs in southeastern Wisconsin, you add them all together and you get a rain, that potential for thousands of pounds of those types of things coming into our waters at once is pretty substantial. And then the other things we can do is mow away from impervious surfaces, mow away from those parking lots and sidewalks and those sewer drains to keep that grass on the grass. Leaves as well, not putting them out into the streets. It may seem funny, right? Natural leaves, natural grass going into natural water, how is that a big deal? But we've never had so many impervious surfaces, so much lawn. None of those things soak up water well, and they don't hold things. So it just is a giant slide for all that stuff to come into the nearest body of water. So definitely keeping that grass, using it maybe for mulching if it's not treated, being very specific about how you fertilize, when you fertilize, if you need to fertilize. So before rain would be a terrible time because all of that money you're putting into that fertilizer is washing right off and polluting the water. And then putting some native plants to soak up that nutrients before it has a chance to leave your property. I know Christy mentioned that. So really easy things we can do. Picking up after our pets privately, not just publicly. All easy, simple solutions that can do wonders for water quality.
Can you believe pet waste is one of the highest forms of pollution in our water? That blew my mind. Now I'm headed to Penoyer Park to talk with Brian Cater from the City of Kenosha about the Stormwater Basin Project. All right, so now I am here with Brian Cater, Deputy Director of Public Works and City Engineer here in the city of Kenosha. What can you tell us about the project here?
Well, you're standing in front of Kenosha Park, the Stormwater Basin. So specifically, this basin is a basin that infiltrates water, stormwater. And what it's doing is it's cleaning the water as it's going through that infiltration process. So this was built 10 years or so ago through an EDA grant. Basically, we're treating the water, the stormwater from neighborhoods to the west before it gets to the lake, so that we're putting clean water in the lake instead of the dirty stormwater. What happened here is that through those 10 years or so, we started getting some invasive species coming in and growing in the basin. And when that happens, they start to overtake all the native species that are in the basin. And when that happens, then it'll compress the soils, it'll kill off the native species that are there to benefit the infiltration process. And so if we do nothing, then this basin becomes just a place to collect water. It doesn't do the infiltration, doesn't clean the water. The bare ground is where we excavated out the invasive species, so we dug them out. So this specific species is called Phragmites. Only real way to get rid of it is to dig it out, because it has roots, it has seeds, it has just by picking it or by treating it, it has other ways to continue to grow. So what you see here is us digging out that invasive species. What's going to happen is that we'll come back and we'll put in some engineered fill, and then on top of that plant it with more native species. Once they take, and the infiltration process will be able to occur again. So water will come through the engineered soil. The roots of the good plants will also act as that filtration process, and then we'll be back in business here, cleaning the water before it goes to the lake. It'll be a continuous process to watch over the basin. We may not get everything with what we did here, so we'll watch it the next year, and if anything does pop up, we will treat that chemically. It'll be smaller portions that can be treated chemically. If any other invasive species pop up, then the sooner you get to them, the easier it is to keep them out. Both the Streets Department and the Parks Department from the city will be involved with this project. When we get to the planting, there'll be a joint effort between the Kenosha museums, KUSD through the Harborside Academy, and the Parks Department are going to join forces to plant the basin. So it'll be a great opportunity for the students at Harborside to not only be involved with the planting, but to learn a little bit something about what this basin is, what it does, and just kind of the whole infiltration process and some stormwater education.
That's amazing, and I feel probably though having a high school grade group come in, being involved with that will help usher in the next generation to have more of an attachment to causes like this and be more aware of the environment and things that we have to do to make sure that we're making sure that we have clean water and things of that nature, right?
We hope so. I mean, that's a part of the goal of this, and bringing in the Harborside Academy is education is king, right? So anytime we can help educate our youth, maybe we interest a couple at least into a field, into the engineering field, into the parks world. If we can inspire anybody by something as simple as having people out helping with a project like this, it's a great opportunity, I think.
I can't wait to see this whole thing transform. I mean, I've been a citizen here for a very long time, my entire life, and I've seen the growth of the city, and it's nice to see that the city is involved in so much and really cares and is dedicated to make sure that everybody has access to clean water, healthy water, and that our earth, our planet, is being taken care of properly. Anything else that you would like to add before we get out of here, Brian?
I just appreciate this opportunity. We don't often enough get out and show the good things that we do here in the city. We do a lot of good things, and it's nice to be able to showcase something that we are doing, because we spend our days trying to make the city better with what we do.
It's amazing to see what the city's doing in tandem with students in the museums at the Stormwater Basin. It's great to see them all helping keep our water clean, and we all need to do our part. The community is a vital piece to improving water quality, and you all have the power to make a lasting, positive change. Anyone can help improve water quality by infiltrating more stormwater on their property using native vegetation, keeping grass clippings away from the storm drains, picking up pet waste, and reducing or completely eliminating the use of lawn chemicals. All right, ladies, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to help educate me and educate everybody out there on Root-Pike Wind, what you folks are doing, and how we can help better the community and our water for everyone here in Kenosha. Now, if anybody wanted to find you, reach out, maybe volunteer, make a donation, how could they reach out and find you?
Definitely find us on social media, Root-Pike Win. We have an excellent website that goes through all of the issues, all of the different plans that have been worked up for our watershed, the different projects we're doing, and that's rootpikewin.org. We'd love to see you. We'd love to have you volunteer and come out to some of our events. It's a lot of fun.
Anything else before we get out of here?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.